What's up, SnowTrax viewers? Luke here. What I'm about to say illustrates a very important point, and it's something that a lot of you know. We listen to your comments. When you comment on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, we listen and we read your comments and we take them to heart. And oftentimes, as many of you know, we reply and we clarify some things that we've said or answer the questions that you have. And that's what this video today is. This is me clarifying something that was said that I feel needs to be explained better. And it's in a video that I recently did that's got a lot of views and a lot of people talking. And the video is our Summit Turbo versus Pro RMK shootout. And this one is probably one of the most controversial videos we've ever made here at SnowTrax. But there's one point within the video that I need to clarify better because it's something so many of you have been confused on. And if it was just one or two people, I would leave it alone. But because it's so many of you, I clearly made a mistake or didn't do a good enough job of explaining what point I was making and why I was making it. So that's what I'm going to fix right now. Before we go any further though, let's look at the clip that's caused all the confusion. After talking to a number of engine builders and engineers, I have found that the horsepower to weight compensation calculation is somewhere between 3 pounds and 8 pounds per horsepower. So let's just call it 5 pounds to be fair. This means that at sea level, the actual horsepower numbers look more like this: the Skidoo 850 Turbo at 155 and the Polaris 850 Patriot at 168. The point in that clip that has been argued and been very confusing is the point where I claim that the Skidoo makes more like 155 horsepower at sea level. And the reason it's confusing is because only one line earlier I say that it makes 165 horsepower as Skidoo has claimed it does. And the reason that I made the 155 horsepower comment is simply a mathematical equation, and here's where it came from. If you take the two sleds, the Pro RMK and the Summit Turbo, and you set them on the ground at sea level, they both make somewhere in the neighborhood of 165 to 168 horsepower. But the Summit Turbo weighs approximately 50 pounds more than the Polaris RMK. Now there is an industry accepted mathematical equation for how weight affects horsepower, and it goes like this. For every 5 pounds extra weight you're carrying, it takes 1 extra horsepower to get that weight moving or to compensate for that extra weight. So if you have a snowmobile that weighs 50 pounds more than its competitor, it is technically at a 10 horsepower disadvantage to its competitor, all other things being equal. Now, that same snowmobile still makes the claimed horsepower. It still makes 165 horsepower. The Turbo does make that for sure, no questions asked. But it weighs 50 pounds more, and based on the mathematical equation, that means the virtual horsepower, once the weight has been compensated for, is more like 155. The motor still makes 165, but in actual real world hit the throttle, carrying extra 50 pounds, it would feel more like 155. So I hope that clears up a little bit of the confusion around this comment. We know here at SnowTrax for sure that the Skidoo Turbo makes 165 horsepower, and in fact, Skidoo claims on their website in bold letters that this is a dyno verified number under ideal conditions, and I have never seen a manufacturer make that claim on their website before, which means they are not just a little bit confident that that's true, they are 100% confident that's true, and I trust that number, so I'm confident as well. Another thing I want to say about this video that I think maybe had some people confused was some people thought what we were saying is that the Summit is never going to make more horsepower than the Polaris, or will never have a horsepower advantage than the Polaris the higher you climb, and that is not what we were insinuating. One thing I know for sure, as we all do around here, is that as the altitude climbs, the Summit continues to make horsepower, more so than the Polaris. The Polaris will continue to make less. So there is a point where the Skidoo is making considerably more horsepower than the RMK, in which case it may have a huge advantage in deep snow or all the situations that you guys say you ride in, that we ride in when we test these things. There is a point where that will become 100% true. The weight has been compensated for by the difference in altitude, the horsepower has been made up, and it is making more power than the Polaris. But that wasn't the parameters we set in our story. The parameters we set were below 7,000, between 6,500 and 7,000 feet. So under those circumstances, I stand by my claims. But I do need to clarify the 155 horsepower number, which I've done, and I do want to clarify that we do recognize the turbo Skidoo, as you go higher, becomes a weapon and makes more power than anything else on the snow in stock form, and is very impressive. And that's something that AJ and I both agree on and have both experienced seat of the pants every time we ride the turbo. I hope this has been a good explanation for you guys. I hope it's cleared some things up, and I hope it's also illustrated that we definitely listen to your comments and that we want you guys to understand exactly what we're saying, and we're concerned when you don't get our comments clearly or that we don't articulate our comments clearly. We like to fix that, and that's exactly what I hope I've done here today.